If you've been following the buzz around Ireland's economic data and how it's affected Europe's entire economic outlook, you understand the reason for this video. Ireland, a country widely known for its remarkably low corporate tax rate of 12.5%, enjoys one of the lowest tax rates in the world. It's also why many multinational corporations have been attracted to set up their European headquarters or operations in the country. Their favourable tax environment has contributed to Ireland's economic growth and its status as a hub for technology and pharmaceutical companies. However, as you'll see later in the video, this low tax rate has also sparked debates and discussions about international tax policies and fairness in the global economy. To be frank, Ireland is currently suffering a hit on the genuineness of its economic data, and it's left economists puzzled as to how Europe can manage the disruptive impact of this so-called uncontrolled data, because through it, the statistics of the Eurozone have been significantly skewed. Why, you ask? Well, as mentioned earlier, it's simply due to the presence of American tech and pharmaceutical giants now settled in Dublin. Unlike far-off places like China or South Korea, where the global economy has recently recorded manufacturing shifts occurring at high speed, in Europe, these US tech and pharmaceutical companies have been the victims of Ireland's economic downturns, and because of that, analysts have seen an alteration in the landscape of Europe's economic data. Now, where does the problem come from? Well, it all started with the strategy of the numerous major US corporations in the technology and pharmaceutical sectors in Ireland in the first place. Remember, because Ireland has one of the lowest tax rates in the world, many of these companies established their headquarters and subsidiary operations there, hoping to use that advantage to reduce their tax liabilities. Meaning that while these corporations increasingly utilize contract manufacturing in low-cost regions like Asia, they retain intellectual property rights and income within their Irish subsidiaries. As a result, a significant portion of the money or income that many of these companies report as earned in Ireland actually comes from activities that don't have much of an impact on creating jobs or generating income for the people who live in Ireland or the larger European region. This also happens because, given that these companies aren't taxed as much as they should be, there's little to zero tax return to Ireland, which then means little revenue for Ireland, despite hosting these companies. And these companies get to go home with the big bucks while leaving very little for the Irish people. Nevertheless, the figures the companies report as revenue are taken pretty seriously because they have a substantial influence on the perception of Europe's economic performance. A recent illustration of this trend was seen in the Eurozone's industrial production statistics for June, which was published by Eurostat, the European Union's statistical body. In the figures, we initially see an unexpected growth of 0.5% in the Eurozone's industrial production, which confused analysts because they predicted a slight decline in Europe's industrial production rates at the time. However, this 0.5% growth was entirely driven by Ireland's remarkable 13.1% surge in its own industrial production rates during the same period. Now, if we were to eliminate any unusual statistical anomalies or distortions from Ireland's data, economist Mark Kusbabic from Barclays calculated that the industrial production rate across the Eurozone would have actually experienced a decrease of 0.9% in June. In other words, without the influence of Ireland's special performance, the Eurozone industrial production would have declined. The main problem with Ireland's economic data is this: when it comes to industrial production rates, fluctuations are common for most countries, but not double-digit fluctuations. And in the past 2 years, Ireland has undergone up to what? 14 double-digit fluctuations? Why? Well, the answer's simple. Ireland's attraction to major industries because of its tax incentives. This measure has consistently wreaked havoc on Ireland's economic data, as pointed out by Stefan Gerlach, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Ireland, now serving as the Chief Economist at Swiss bank EFG. He noted that this issue does not contribute positively to Ireland's reputation, because while Ireland's strategy of attracting major industries through tax incentives does bring economic benefits, it doesn't always contribute positively to the country's reputation, and that's for several reasons. First, some critics view these tax incentives as a form of tax avoidance, where large multinational corporations exploit tax loopholes to reduce their liabilities. It's an issue that usually leads to negative public sentiment, and because of that, it's easy to see Ireland as complicit in allowing companies to avoid their fair share of taxes. Also, the practice of offering low tax rates to attract companies, especially multinational giants, can raise ethical concerns. It can be seen as prioritising corporate interests over social welfare, education, healthcare and other public services that rely on tax revenue, which is also why, despite the surge in Ireland's industrial production rates, its domestic economy still suffers hitches, and its people aren't experiencing the great standard of living befitting of a nation as productive as it is. Do we also mention how Ireland's low corporate tax rate technically contributes to global tax inequality, which a lot of countries criticise? Or the fact that should these American companies relocate due to changing global dynamics, it could leave Ireland economically vulnerable. These are just some of the many concerns that come with Ireland's low tax rate for multinational corporations. Now, yes, the nation's strategy does have economic benefits, but the associated ethical, global and societal concerns overshadow these benefits somewhat and impact the country's reputation on a broader scale. An economist named Melanie De Bono, who works at Pantheon Macroeconomics, also noticed a problem with the data coming from Ireland that was affecting the Eurozone's industrial production figures. The issue was that the data from Ireland wasn't matching up correctly with the other data in the Eurozone. Specifically, when De Bono examined the different sectors within Ireland's industrial production and combined them while taking into account their relative importance in the overall economy, the results showed there was actually a decrease of 0.6% in the Eurozone's industrial production rates. However, the official report stated there was an increase of 0.5%. This difference between the two sets of numbers is a big cause for concern. It indicates that something went wrong with how the data was being collected, reported, or analysed. It also raises questions about the accuracy and reliability of the reported increase in industrial production for Ireland, as the discrepancy suggests the actual situation might be different from what was initially presented. The significant fluctuations in Irish industrial production also ripple through gross domestic product figures for the Eurozone. For example, in the 3 months leading up to June, more than half of the region's 0.3% growth from the previous quarter was propelled by Ireland's remarkable 3.3% expansion. The Central Statistics Office of Ireland attributed much of this second quarter growth to the influence of multinational companies like Apple, Pfizer, Meta, Intel and Google. This meant in simpler terms that the activities of these companies in Ireland affected Europe's GDP figures. Now, experts are grappling with potential solutions to the problem. Oliver Rakow, an economist at Oxford Economics, has proposed that Eurostat publish economic data excluding Ireland to mitigate the impact of Irish data irregularities. Irish statisticians, on the other hand, are contemplating adopting different techniques, but in the meantime, they have attached a cautionary note to industrial production data and suggested taking a longer-term perspective. Ronan Dunphy, a research analyst at Irish brokerage Goodbody, has also indicated that it's wise to disregard data that is of dubious value on a month-to-month basis. So, from these, we see that while Ireland does enjoy benefits from the operations of multinational corporations, such as localised manufacturing and corporate tax revenues, no matter how limited, the ongoing distortion of Europe's economic data due to Ireland's practices is amplifying the call for measures to address this influence. But what will be the right call to make? Well, we'll leave that to you in the comments section. And that's all we've got on the matter and all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, share this video with your peeps and press that post notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Until next time, always watch out for the latest trending economic news we analyse here and take care.